Ride through Houston, Texas, flexing, rolling through the SWAT. Repping for the city, hear 'em in the parking lot. Houston written across the jersey, ain't gon' never stop. Just fans got me tuning in, waiting for the drop. Astros, Texas, Rockets, Dynamo, they coming with it. When they pull up, got the city sitting on a fitted. Straight up A-Leaf, hold it down, ain't gon' never quit it. Just fans got me tuning in, let my dogs get it. Southwest A-Leaf, Texas, throw down here and it's so infectious. We ride for the Houston Astros, Rockets, Dynamo, and them Texans.
What's going on, everyone? Thank you for tuning in tonight. It's everyone's favorite host, Rios, and I'm joined by the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Dallas Clark. How are you doing tonight, sir?
Oh, man, I'm absolutely phenomenal, brother. How are you doing tonight?
I'm just ready for the season to start. It's 2 weeks away. Man, we made it, guys. We made it.
Man, I'm not going to lie to you. All the patience has paid off. I've been watching WWE. I've been watching the Olympics, but nothing can compare to the NFL season starting. That first week, sit with some chicken wings, a nice cold beer on a Sunday. Boy, I can't wait.
Chef's kiss right there. That's my entire Sunday.
Yeah, man. It's one of those Facebook posts you be seeing that it's like point of view. It's a crisp fall afternoon. Your fantasy team is up by 54. You got steaks on the grill waiting for Sunday night football. Like, man, I can't wait for it. That's my favorite season, this football season.
Exactly. Like, nothing compares to it. I mean, I love baseball and, October baseball, but it just doesn't hit like the NFL does.
Those are filler sports, man. Those are snacks to get you through the real meal, which is the NFL season.
Yes, sir. So what you've been up to, man? Tell the guys what you've been up to the last couple of days. You've been, met some pretty big names.
Oh, man. So I actually had one of the biggest honors in my life these last few days as a Colts fan and just as a football fan in general. I got to shake hands with the sheriff himself, Peyton Manning. I got lucky and got into this side job that I've been working for the PGA Tour BMW Championship at the FedEx Playoffs here in Castle Pines, Colorado. I'm just a little server. I'm serving hors d'oeuvres and a little bar back and stuff like that. But man, I think I ran into Daniel Jones today while I was serving some breakfast. I saw John Elway while I was out there. I got to meet Luke Bryan. I've seen some big stars, but man, it's just great to be out there as a sports fan, just seeing one of the longest PGA Tour courses and just having a blast, man.
That's awesome. So tell us, is his head that big in person, or is it?
It's definitely that big in person. I recognized his voice first, but the height and the forehead were the next two things I noticed. It's hard to miss Peyton Manning in a crowd of people. I can't lie to you, man.
And the only thing missing was that red mark on his forehead.
Exactly. Like John Elway, he kind of like snuck up on me. I was standing next to John Elway for a second before I realized, oh shit, that's John Elway. But Peyton Manning, as soon as you saw him, you were like, man, that's Peyton Manning, bro. There's no question about it.
All right. So let's get a little bit into football. So we've had a few preseason games. We've been able to watch a few weeks of training camp. So what are some of your thoughts on the progression that you've seen from some of the Colts players that we had talked about the last time you were on?
With the Colts players, we've had a lot of excitement from a lot of the young players, like Latu tonight got a sack early in the Bengals game. He's been a really impressive player for us in that first round on our defensive line. Really, the progression that I haven't been seeing that I wanted is from Anthony Richardson. There hasn't been much information coming out. I know we all probably saw those articles yesterday about the Bengals practice this week with the Colts, how much trash they were talking. And I know Anthony looked great in the first drive of tonight's preseason game, but as the game progressed, a lot of mistakes. I mean, there was a lot of wide receiver drops. I didn't see quite what the Bengals defenders were talking about throughout this week at practice. However, I definitely do want to see a lot more from Anthony Richardson specifically. I think the pieces are all around on defense, on special teams, the playmakers on offense, but I really want to see more from Anthony Richardson. And throughout this preseason, I just have not gotten the answers that I was looking for as a Colts fan. So we still have a lot of questions going into week one against those Texans, man.
Yeah, because like you mentioned off air, he has a total of like 20 starts in his entire football career, which is, less than 2 seasons.
Yeah. I mean, with the injury last year, you're looking at, I think he had 6 starts in high school, then the 13 in college that had everybody asking the questions going into last season before the Colts season even started. And then the injury last year, 4 games into the season. I mean, we saw some great flashes from Anthony Richardson, mostly in the running game. But with less than 20 starts, we got to get some confidence under this young man and really let him think he can run an NFL franchise.
Yeah, because when it comes to these quarterbacks, a lot of it, is those repetition after repetition, whether it be the in-game action, preseason, training camp. You got to get those reps in because a lot of the quarterback position is the mental aspect of it. The ball placement, the being on the same page as your receivers.
Yeah,
if he's going to run it like he did last year, I mean, I don't think he's going to make it a full season again. And
exactly.
he has his potentials. Sky's the limit for the guy, but he's just got to be able to stay on the field.
Exactly. And I think a big part of it is confidence. And you saw a lot of it in the same way Andrew Luck played football. You always do. Andrew Luck was good for at least 1 or 2 interceptions a game. He was a good quarterback, but he made mistakes trying to do everything on his own. And what Anthony Richardson needs to understand is we don't need him to get those extra 2 yards. That's why we got Jonathan Taylor. That's why we got a top 3 rushing offensive line in Pro Football Focus in 2023. We have the pieces around him that like Josh Allen had to learn the same lessons early in his career, that you don't have to dive in that and get that extra yard for the first down. We can come in. We're a strong enough offense and you got to trust the players around you and have the confidence in yourself that you and in your team, that you don't have to really put everything on your back and just run out there and try to run for 200 yards a game when you know that you can throw for 250 yards a game, 3 touchdowns, and scramble for 30-something.
Yeah, you don't got to play hero ball every game. Like, it's a long season. You got to make the smart move. Like, you know what? I get you want to get the extra yards, but at the same time, like, you got to think of the big picture. Slide, it's not worth it because, yeah, you can't have another season where plays just 4 games because that's just going to raise even more question marks about it.
Exactly.
So who are some of the other guys that have stood out to you in preseason action so far?
So Adonai Mitchell, our wide receiver that we drafted, I think 2nd round this year. From Texas. I think when you're looking at Michael Pittman Jr. being locked into his contract, having that confidence, you're looking at Josh Downs and the good pieces we saw from him last year. What we have in Alec Pierce, Adonai Mitchell seems like he brings our whole wide receiver room together, kind of like something that we can compete with the Texans with. When you look at the Texans having Nico and Tank Dell and Stephon Diggs, they have a complete wide receiver room. No matter who needs a breath, no matter whose ankle just got rolled, the Texans don't really have many questions at wide receiver. And the Colts at wide receiver have had questions for at least the last decade. And it feels like we're pretty comfortable for the first time going into an NFL season at who's going to be catching the ball and in their abilities.
Yeah, I've seen some of the highlights from training camp of a Mitchell, and he's looked pretty good. I think he'll be a good compliment to who's the other guy? Drawing a blank here.
Michael Pittman Jr.
There you go, Pittman Jr. Yeah. I think he'll be a good compliment because he can stretch the field, and Pittman's more the underneath guy. So I think that's a good, 1-2 punch.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like Michael Pittman's got the size advantage. Adonai Mitchell's kind of a great in between. Josh Downs has that downfield that we thought we got out of Paris Campbell a long time ago. So we kind of have something of everything that we need in the wide receiver room, plus all the tight ends that we have. I mean, we always go heavy tight end sets and things like that. So it works out well for our running game, works out well for our passing scheme. We just really got to get some confidence under Anthony Richardson, man. Let him really believe that he can orchestrate this offense into greatness.
Yeah, now switching gears a little bit to the Texans. Not a whole lot of surprises on the offensive side of the ball. People were, a little worried about, I guess, the distribution as far as touches go. But, I mean, those guys look like they have a pretty good camaraderie going on. Like, there doesn't seem to be any egos as far as who gets the most touches. But from what I've seen in training camp and a couple of these preseason games, looks like Tank Dell has been, the primary recipient of a lot of targets.
Yeah,
he's mainly on the outside. People were speculating, he might be, playing primarily in the slot, but he's been playing on the outside with Nico on those 3 receiver sets, and Diggs has been moving on to the inside, which I had kind of mentioned before. I kind of see him taking that Larry Fitzgerald role. You kind of lose those steps, you move it to the slot and take advantage of, your ability to separate and your, strong hands. And we've been seeing it a little bit, especially today. There's some of the videos that came out. Like, there's this one where he just completely torched the Rams defensive back for a long touchdown.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see how that goes. Other than that, with the running backs, my biggest disappointment is Dameon Pierce. Like, a lot of people were, hyping him up. Like, even like with the coaches and stuff, like, hey, this is going to be a bounce back year for him. But his longest run in preseason is 3 yards. He's gained a
Oh,
total
yeah.
of 8 yards, and it's just he's looking like the odd man out in the running back room because they got a guy like Cam Akers came off the street. Looks like
Yeah.
he's by the running back 2 position. Just hey, if he can get back to the form he was with the Rams, hey, I'll take it.
I would definitely understand that. I mean, and going back to Diggs, you're seeing something similar with like Keenan Allen in Chicago. You're looking at that veteran wide receiver. He's been the number one wide receiver for so long, but they already have DJ Moore, a number one wide receiver. They've paid him as the number one wide receiver, and Keenan Allen is willingly taking that role to move to the inside to let DJ Moore take those number one wide receiver sets. And I feel like people that are thinking that Stephon Diggs is a quote unquote diva and if he doesn't get enough targets, that's going to affect him. And we've seen that in the past, but also we've seen Stephon Diggs being the only wide receiver in Minnesota for, a certain amount of years. We've seen him, and then Gabriel Davis was the best wide receiver behind him in Buffalo. So hell yeah, in Buffalo and in Minnesota, Stephon Diggs was saying, give me that damn ball. But I think going into Houston, knowing that he may not even be the best wide receiver in the room, I think he's going to be able to acknowledge that, and he's going to get in where he fits in and understand, just like Tank Dell does under Nico Collins, that every opportunity I get, I've got to make the most of. I think being DeAndre Hopkins for so long for the Texans and being able just to get force-fed 40% of the target share starts to put you in a position where who else are you going to throw it to? But I think Stephon Diggs is going to fit into this wide receiver room well. His veteran presence, he's got crazy playoff experience, playing with some of the toughest teams. Minnesota was one of the best teams when he was there. Buffalo was one of the best teams in the AFC when he was there, and he's always fallen short of that NFC of the championship. I think that Stephon Diggs is going to be an absolutely nasty presence on this Texans offense. Probably the scariest addition that you guys had this year. So he's definitely who I'm really going to I'm keeping my eye on. I think he's going to be the Draymond Green of the Texans this year. He doesn't have to be the best wide receiver of the Texans. He doesn't have to be the best player on the Texans, but Stephon Diggs got that dog in him, and the Texans are going to they're going to bite off that, man, for real.
Yeah, I think the one team he can't get past is the Chiefs, and I think he felt like this is probably his best chance because Buffalo wasn't going to send him there. So I was like,
I think this Texans team that he's on right now is the best team that he's been able to face the Chiefs with. Like I said, he was the best wide receiver in Buffalo, and they've had James Cook and Zach Moss, running back, and Devin Singletary. Like the Bills were never really complete as a team. Minnesota was never complete as a team while he was there. This Texans team, I've said it before on this podcast, they're the most complete Texans team I think I've ever seen in my entire lifetime. And they're definitely a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun to watch because he's actually taking a big mentor role as far as coaching up some of these younger receivers. Like I've seen it in training camp. Like he'll pull these guys to the side and talk to them. He'll talk to CJ Stroud on the side. He's talking to the coaches. Like I said, I haven't seen any of this quote unquote diva behavior. Like he's coming in like a professional.
Yeah.
Gets to coach the guys up, tell them what he sees. Hey, you could have went this way, you could have did this. Like he's coaching them up. He's being a true pro. Like I haven't seen any diva behavior from him so far. And I don't anticipate seeing that because there's a lot of strong leadership in that locker room. So I think don't have to worry about that as far as him having those outbursts like he did in Minnesota and Buffalo.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to be a diva when you're happy with no matter whether you get the ball or not. You know what I'm saying? Like kind of like when if you've seen that show Receiver on Netflix, like Devontae Adams, he was pissed off at the beginning of the year. It wasn't really like no matter how good or bad I play, no matter how involved I am in the game, as long as we play good. Now he wasn't about that life in the first 6 games of the season, and you saw that change in him actively throughout the year, and he became more of like, honestly, like if I get 1 target a game and we play a great game and we win, I don't think Stephon Diggs is going to be mad with that.
Exactly, like because at this point of his career, he wants to win. Because if it was all about stats, he would have went somewhere where he was the only guy. But came here because he wants to win. Get to one of the comments real quick. Aceto, I just tweeted about y'all tailgating for the October game. Colts for 98, born and raised in H-Town, baby. All right. Dude, I love
Represent, baby, man. You got it's hard. It's hard to rep out there in them rival states and in the enemy territory.
right. No, I've had some pretty good times, tailgating with Colts fans. I
Yeah.
mean, just compared to Bills fans, those motherfuckers will have you drunk at 10 o'clock in the morning.
See, Broncos fans are different, man. Broncos fans will fight each other if they lose. You know what I'm saying? Like Broncos fans, you got to be careful around them, man. Like they don't mess around.
Oof. Now, those Bill fans, they were pretty fun. I don't know about this year. I think there's a little bit of bad blood because Stephon Diggs came here, and I see a lot of them on Twitter. You can tell that they're a little hurt that he's here.
Yeah.
I'm like, sorry.
Hey, man, we felt the same way when Peyton went to Denver, and I live in Denver, so I hated it even more.
Ooh, double-edged sword.
Yeah.
All right, so we play each other September the 9th.
Yeah.
Week 1. So what are you looking forward to from that game?
Man, I'm not going to lie to you. I really don't really know what I'm looking forward to in the week 1. It sounds weird as a Colts fan. When you look at the Colts losing, 7 or 8 straight week 1s in the last few years, Anthony Richardson, I mean, from what we've seen in the preseason, the offense has not gotten into that I feel like our offense is going to be mistake prone in week 1. I feel like we've already proven ourselves to be not trustworthy going into week 1. So I'm just hoping that we put ourselves in a good game. I think it was not last year, the year before. I think it might have been last year where we had that tie game. I think week 1 or week 2. Like if we can put ourselves in fighting position, that's great. As long as we don't get blown out. If the Colts show promise, if I show something we can build on, if we get blown out week 1, nobody would be surprised because everybody's got a lot of expectation on the Houston Texans this season. But as long as the Colts can stay, if we're in the fourth quarter talking about if the Colts can make this play, they're in a position to win this game. Like if we can stay within a fighting chance, that's all I'm really hoping for. I'm really looking forward to seeing our team in full motion. You've always been able to use the excuse these last 3 weeks. It's preseason. What can you expect? You know what I'm saying? I'm really excited to see the no excuses, full 53-man roster. Shane Steichen in his bag. Like I just want to see the Colts playing good football and stay in a competitive game and really show the world why Houston Texans, Indianapolis Colts was that last Sunday night football of the season last year. And just really represent for the AFC South. I want to be all over Red Zone on Sunday night or on Sunday afternoon.
No, like for years, like I was never looking forward to seeing the Colts on the schedule just because you guys had Peyton Manning. He would kick us year after year. It wasn't until 2011, 2012 we started to turn the tide a little bit, started to take a little bit more control in the AFC South. Until these last few seasons where it's just abysmal. Like you mentioned, 2 years ago we had that tie week 1. I'm like,
yeah.
I was just looking at my TV screen like, Lovey, we're playing for a tie, bro. We got a chance to win
week
game.
1.
We haven't seen more than 3 wins in a while. Like, what are you doing, sir?
And neither the Colts or Texans at that time were in a position to really be like, it was like Colts Texans tie week 1. What else did you expect? Like I'm trying to change expectations week 1. That's all I care about. Like even if we don't win, if we play a good game, if we battle with the Texans, if everybody continues to talk about how great this Anthony Richardson, CJ Stroud rivalry could be over the next 10 years, like I just want to change expectations on week 1. And I really want some questions answered week 1. Honestly, like I feel like when we're all predicting games, going like just like we all have throughout this whole offseason, who's going to win the most games in the AFC South, yada, yada. The Colts are a big question mark. We know the Titans are trash. We know the Jaguars are recycled material. Frauds, exactly. But they're not trash, but you put them next to your trash in a green-colored bin, maybe a little gold on the outside. But the Colts, they're a question mark. Do the Colts compete with the Texans, or do the Colts play as good as the Jaguars? Are they frauds? So I feel like we have a lot of questions, and week 1 is really where they're going to start to get answered, because if we get beat down by the Texans week 1, we don't get much help going on our schedule throughout the next few weeks after that. So I think the Texans, even if we lose, it's important to build confidence in that game and say, outside of this turnover, outside of this mistake, we could have won this game. So I like I said, that's all I can hope for. Of course, I'd love for the Colts to win, but I wouldn't be an honest Colts fan if I said I'm expecting the Colts to come in there and whoop ass on week 1. I'm just hoping that we play good football.
Yeah, most Texans fans, they were like, we're going to blow them out. Like, no, I expect a closer game because it's a division rivalry game. Both sides have been talking a little trash throughout the offseason. So, there's going to be a little bit of bad blood. Might be a few skirmishes here and there. But what I'm actually looking forward to, not so much as a Texans fan, but like, as a fan of the football, I just want to see the progression of Anthony Richardson.
Oh, yeah.
You had mentioned, off air, like this dude has all the potential in the world, but just has to put it all together and play the quarterback position instead of trying to be a running back.
Exactly. Yeah, it's one of those things like everybody, when you're listening to fantasy football research, if Anthony Richardson's at the top of everybody's potential breakout list. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody has a lot of hope on Anthony Richardson, and this is the year for everybody to say, like, he's a sophomore coming off that injury. He's become smarter. Like, this is the year that everybody's saying Anthony Richardson is supposed to be that guy. So I almost feel like, as a Colts fan, I almost feel like I've been wrong. I thought there would be a little less pressure on Anthony Richardson going into this year with the injury last year. Like he kind of has built-in excuses, but I feel like there's more expectation this year after the flashes that the world saw in his first 4 games, that if he does stay healthy, how good Anthony Richardson is supposed to be. So I feel like he's got, like I said, he's got a lot of questions to answer week 1 going into it.
Yeah, stay on the subject of quarterbacks. So I'm also excited to see the progression of CJ Stroud. A lot of people are saying, hey, people have film on him. He's going to have a sophomore slump. I'm like, they've had film on Patrick Mahomes. He blew up year 2. They had film on Burrow, blew up year 2. Like, there's film on everybody. Like, he's been playing. He played at Ohio State. Like, come on, there's been film on him for years.
Exactly. I think personally the sophomore slump thing. I personally it's hard to see progression from CJ Stroud because he was so goddamn good last year. You know what I'm saying? But what you don't want to see, like you said, is the sophomore slump. As long as you don't get regression or at least notable regression from CJ Stroud, you can. If CJ Stroud plays as good as he did last year, Texans fans are happy. If he plays better than he did last year, all of a sudden you're talking about him in that Patrick Mahomes level. But then if he does have regression, you got the sophomore slump. So as a Texans fan, I think he was so good last year. If CJ Stroud can just play as good as he did last year, he's setting that standard. He's setting that precedence. But if CJ Stroud does fuck around and get better, man, the league's in trouble. Honestly, I feel like if it wasn't for Patrick Mahomes being who he is, CJ Stroud could be on the track to be the face of the NFL. When you look at just the personality that he has, how much he's on different podcasts. Him and Micah, the Cowboys play, Micah Parsons. The amount of trash talking. The world loves CJ Stroud, man. Like, it's hard to hate the guy. I feel like if it wasn't for Patrick Mahomes, CJ Stroud would be the face of the NFL within the next couple of years if he continues on this trend.
And who would have thought we would have been in this position? A few years ago, we had Davis Mills, a quarterback, and I was questioning myself, like, well, why am I watching this game? Why do I devote my Sundays to this torture?
For real. It was easy to dislike Deshaun Watson, but CJ Stroud, like I'll be talking shit about CJ Stroud, and my girlfriend's like, man, but he's not that bad of a guy. I'm like, I know, but you're supposed to hate him, though. That's the problem that we have. You're like, why do you like CJ Stroud so much? What the hell, man?
What are you doing, woman? But no, like you were saying, man, I think there is a few things he could work on. It's little stuff, though. But if he can clean that stuff up, I mean, I think the one thing I would like to see more from him is I like to see him use his legs a little bit more, which, it's crazy because we mentioned we want to see Anthony Richardson use his legs less. I kind of want to see CJ use them a little bit more, but not, trying to like barrel over people. But he's had opportunities where he could have picked up the first down, but he decided to, either throw it away or, do a little check down, which is fine. But like, there's some opportunities for him to be a little more aggressive. I would like to see him, take off and run and, pick up those extra yards.
Yeah,
make it a little
absolutely.
easier. All right, let me get some of these comments real quick.
Yeah, of course. And while you're getting those comments, of course, being a rookie, they probably tried to, handicap his game a little bit. I bet you, just like when you look at Russell Wilson in those first couple of years in Seattle, they didn't really open him up as much as they could have. And when they did open him up, Russell Wilson was one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. And I think you could argue the same thing for CJ Stroud. I mean, they probably handicapped him being a rookie quarterback and said, don't be Anthony Richardson. Don't go out there, try to make those plays, take the sack, go ahead and go out of bounds, whatever you need to do. And building that trust with the offensive coordinator, this whole offensive staff, and allowing CJ Stroud to make those decisions on his own. I bet you CJ Stroud is going to just become a more dangerous quarterback the more handle he has on this whole offense.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. He was, number 7 in passing yards as a rookie, and he missed 2 games.
Yeah.
Just on his per game averages, if he would have played, he would have beat Tua for the passing record. Well, I mean, not the passing record, but for passing yards in the season.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yes, and responding to the comment here, man, like, and that's the thing that the Indianapolis Colts in the front office have to change with Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson shouldn't be scared going against Will Anderson and Daniel Hunter, of course, as he should be, but we got to protect Anthony Richardson. We have got to keep the offensive line healthy in front of him. We've got to give him the protection to allow him to have that confidence, because for Andrew Luck throughout his entirety of his career to be, one of the most hit quarterbacks in the NFL, and he wasn't a running quarterback, was outrageous. And that's what led him to a retirement 7 years in his career. So the best way to extend Anthony Richardson's career is not to try to teach Anthony Richardson how to slide on a slip and slide like they did Caleb Williams in Chicago. It's to protect that man and not make him think that he needs to scramble out of the pocket. Maybe he just needs to roll out of the pocket, make that extend that play and make that play downfield, as opposed to looking downfield with a running mentality first. Just got to work on that accuracy. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, yes, he was right. You got to work on the accuracy, because on that pick 6, I mean, he had a clean pocket. He just threw it right to the Bengals defender. So he's got those are little things he has to work on.
Yeah, and so that's one of the great things about Anthony Richardson too. It's like he has the arm strength, he has the physical capability and the abilities, and accuracy is one of those things that can be taught and can be worked on throughout camps in the off season, throughout practice from week to week. So accuracy being his biggest downfall, it's got a lot of promise behind it, because that's something we can fix. You can't teach a quarterback that can't run how to run the football. You can't teach a quarterback that can't throw deep how to throw the ball deep. But Anthony Richardson has all the pieces he needs, and he just needs to work on the things that can be worked on, which is absolutely phenomenal if we can stay healthy and give him those things to build on. I think we're going to be in a great position this year.
Yeah, if we can work on the mechanics and just the accuracy and just staying in the pocket and being patient, he should have a much better season.
Yeah.
CJ Stroud's being doubted by some tech. Yeah, he was. It was crazy seeing from because we had Davis Mills for way too many seasons.
But see, it's also one of those things that I don't think it was CJ Stroud. I think it was the Texans. People weren't expecting CJ Stroud to be that good last year, because nobody thought the Texans were that good last year. The Texans as a team surprised everybody, not just CJ Stroud. But like, a top pick, just like Caleb Williams. What do you really expect from Caleb Williams this year playing for that Bears team? Luckily, they've been able to change a lot of things around. If you had the same team Justin Fields did, you would kind of not really expect much out of Caleb Williams this year. But giving CJ Stroud the team that he did that nobody expected, that came out of nowhere, and the abilities that nobody expected. Like I said, of course, CJ was getting doubted, but I think it was more on the fact that the Texans had a new coaching staff. The Texans have not really had much outside of the Deshaun Watson phase, where they really had much of promise. So I think the Texans were really more being doubted than CJ last year, but I definitely agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, and with good reason. They hadn't done much to inspire confidence among the fan base or among the league. There was a reason they had 0 primetime games scheduled, just because they were a masterclass of ineptitude for multiple seasons, and then putting it all together in one offseason. I mean, a lot of people saying, hey, we should try to replicate the Texans. That can't be replicated.
Yeah.
As much as you want to try, just because how often are you going to get a coach like D'Amico, quarterback like CJ, a defensive anchor like Will Anderson, and having a guy like Tangdale all in one draft?
Exactly, man. Like I said, like I think I believe that what the Texans did last year is having a big impact. Like when you look at fantasy football, on what people are expecting from Malik Neighbors and Jaden Daniels this year, the Texans, nobody is able to turn around their franchise in one draft. And the Texans, and people discount the fact the Texans had the number 1 and the number 4 picked in the draft. But I mean, y'all were wheeling and dealing in that draft last year, and almost every pick that you got in that rookie draft last year was a win.
Yeah, and then they had a tremendous offseason as well to fix key pieces that were missing, because when Tank Dell went down, you could tell the difference in the passing game. It wasn't as potent as it was when Tank Dell was out there. There was a lack of pass rushing from the opposite side of Will Anderson, and they upgraded. No disrespect to Jonathan Bernard. He did a great job, but Daniil Hunter is, a tier above him, man. I think him and Diggs were the two biggest acquisitions as far as what we got this offseason.
I mean, we've seen teams like the Cleveland Browns a few years ago when they got Odell and Jarvis Landry and Baker in his early years. And there was a lot of expectation on that, but they had acquired a ton of veteran wide receivers and veteran presence around Baker Mayfield, and it didn't work out. And so statistically, you look at even having proven pieces around a rookie quarterback sometimes just doesn't work out. So many questions from wide receiver 1 to wide receiver 2 to Dameon Pierce, even and also adding in a rookie quarterback. There were so many questions for the Texans last year. It was hard to expect the Texans to win 10 or more games last year, because who expected not just Nico Collins, but also Tank Dell to be a hit, but also that's what I'm saying. Like, not many people were that rare breed that every single pick that we made. I mean, as a Colts fan, every year I feel like every single pick that we made was gonna hit, and but for that to actually be the truth, and that happened for you, that our number 1 pick, our number 4 pick, both of our picks in the second round and our third round pick are all badass players in real life football for you. That doesn't happen, and so I think the Texans, and they have so much confidence to build on for that entire squad, and D'Amico. I mean, I feel like life's got to be fantastic as a Texans fan right now.
We used to pray for times like this.
Exactly, man. I was thinking about it earlier. Like, as a Colts fan, the problem is we've always either been good or like barely not good enough, barely missing the playoffs by 1 or 2 wins. Like, we've never had really bad down years outside of the years Peyton Manning was hurt, or like it's either we're almost good enough or we're really good. And a lot of the times it's been almost good enough, even in the Peyton years, not being able to get past Tom Brady. The fact that we've had, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, or Peyton Manning and Andrew Luck throughout a 15, 17-year period, and we only have 2 Super Bowl presents and 1 Super Bowl ring to show for it. It's on the Packers level of disappointment.
Yeah, I mean, most teams would love to get there, but having a quarterback like Peyton, you would expect with the Packers having a guy like Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre, you guys have 1 Super Bowl each. It's like you expect a little bit more. Now we're going back. So last year I had predicted the Texans winning 10 games, and people looked at me crazy. They laughed at me, but I was like, it's not a homer take. The year before in 2022, like they had, they lost 7 one-score games. Honestly, if they had competent quarterback play, those are winnable games.
Yeah.
The defensive pieces were somewhat in place. They just needed a different scheme. They were playing that Tampa 2, which was not the best fit for the personnel they had out there. And you just needed a competent quarterback. You had more or less okay receivers, but I think having an elite quarterback raised the level of receivers. I was like, 10 wins is, it seems about right. And I'd seen Tank Dell firsthand because he went to University of Houston, in my backyard. So I saw him a bunch, in the last couple of years in college. Like, this dude's going to be a beast in the NFL. It's the smallest guy on the field, but in that red zone, you lose track of him. Touchdown.
Yeah.
He led college football in touchdown catches before he entered the draft. So I was like, you know what? He's gonna be a real good guy for us. I really hope he's still there in the 3rd round. And lo and behold, here he is. Oh, damn it, Botkins.
Yeah, no, not the real Dallas Clark. I am Dallas Clark, but not him.
Oh, tell us the story about that one podcast that thought you were the Dallas Clark.
Oh man, I felt so bad. So I did get an invite on another Texans hosted podcast. They went onto my Huddle Chat Sports Facebook and Twitter at the Huddle Chat Sports. I was on this show the week before. The guy hit me up and was like, yo, I'm a big fan, love to have you on the show. And I was like, damn, that's cool that they're a big fan, I was like, shit, that's kind of... And then after 30 seconds, I was like, I wonder if he thinks I'm the real Dallas Clark. And then I went to get on the show, and I saw their YouTube thumbnail had a picture of Dallas Clark, the tight end, and I was like, Oh man, so I think I was like kind of a pretty sad surprise that they got when like I got the, they were like, "Oh, here he comes, guys! I'm about to bring him into the yard," and and it was just me with my curly hair, mop head, all greasy like a Jerry curl. And they were like, "Man," but I had good takes. They really liked my presence, but I wasn't the Dallas Clark they were looking for.
Oh man, yeah, I remember when you told us the story. I was like, oh man.
Like it is my real name, guys. I promise you, I'm not an imposter. It's my real name. I was named after the Dallas Cowboys. My dad thought I was a good luck charm. I ended up being a curse and becoming a Colts fan. So, you know, you get what you deserve.
So your dad's a Dallas Cowboys fan?
Yeah, my dad's a Cowboys fan. I was born like a month after their last Super Bowl in '96. So my dad thought I was, you know, he thought I was the prophet, you know, but they didn't win many playoff games since I was born, and he named me Dallas. So, and my whole family is Cowboys fans. I got 4 brothers and sisters. They're all big Cowboys fans. I'm the only non-Cowboys fan, and I'm named after the Cowboys.
Man, it's funny how life works sometimes.
Exactly, man. I decided early in life that I will not name my kid Colt.
Don't do that. So how did you become a Colts fan?
Dallas Clark, man. I watched him in college. He played for Iowa State, one of the two. And I, you know, just being a kid, recognizing his name on TV and be like, "Yo, we have the same name. That's really cool." And then he got drafted by the Colts, and one of my aunts or uncles got me a Dallas Clark jersey for Christmas. And then that next year, we went to the Super Bowl against the Bears, and you know, I wore my Dallas Clark jersey every Sunday. That was the first time I got like my own jersey, and it was cool to be different than everybody else in the family. And then we won the Super Bowl, and it was history for me from there, man. And then I remember before Dallas Clark went to the Ravens or the Buccaneers, I forget which one he went first, but people would ask me, like, if Dallas Clark leaves the Colts, are you going to be, like, not a Colts fan anymore? And I was like, man, like, I've become such a big Colts fan. Like, I know every player on the team. I know statistics from before I was born, before my dad was born. Like, I'm a big Colts fan, and it started with Dallas Clark, but, like, I'm not going to change just because Dallas Clark's not number 44 in the blue and white anymore.
Hey, so that we as kids, we all picked a team that's going to torture us for the rest of our adult lives.
Yeah, man. I mean, I actually just went to my 10-year high school reunion a couple weeks ago, and everybody, I wore a Colts jersey, of course, and everybody was like, I always remember, like, no matter whether you guys won or lost, every Monday you would always wear your Colts jersey because you didn't want people. I told everyone, I said I didn't want people to think that like I was a bandwagon fan and I would only wear my jersey when we won. Like, even if the Colts got embarrassed last week, I would wear my jersey proudly the next day and not let y'all quit. I'd still argue with you that Peyton Manning was the best quarterback in the league, and no matter how many Super Bowls Tom Brady won, I still think Peyton Manning was the best, man.
It's not going to win, man.
Yeah, no, I mean, like when I was 12, I could have won that argument, but not anymore.
It's crazy. Tom Brady's winning Super Bowls when we were, in high school and most of our adult lives. Like, bro.
I was saying when those phones came out that like slid like sideways and then came up the little razors or whatever. Like I was able to win that argument when Tom Brady only had like 2 Super Bowls. I was like, yeah, no, Peyton Manning's better in accuracy numbers, but then once he got to like Super Bowl 3 or 4, I just stopped even having that argument.
Then 5, 6, and 7, like damn.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was kind of just like, man, fuck Tom Brady.
Like, bro, you can't have it all, man.
Like he's got a supermodel wife. At least that one year he got hurt, we all got to like relax for fucking 17 Sundays.
It was short lived.
That was one of the best years of my early lives when Tom Brady was hurt. That week 1. I mean, I don't want to wish bad on anybody, but Tom Brady going out and everybody feeling like they had a chance week 1 of the NFL season. That was one of the greatest years of my early life.
Well, I know we had no chance, but still, it's like, I like to see someone else win besides the
For real, I'm getting tired of seeing that blue and white and red, man.
Let me get some of these comments. Where's Carlos from the one no one can really understand?
Well, yeah, Carlos, man. Actually, that comment reminds me. I've been seeing you guys' new uniforms, man. I really like you guys' new uniforms. However, I have the problem with your away uniforms that when I'm watching like from a distance, I think that you guys are like the Broncos. You guys' away uniforms looks very similar to another team's. Like when you're watching on Red Zone or something, and it's in a quad box. You're like, what is that team up there? And then you're like, oh, that's the Texans. Like, but yeah, I do like your new uniforms.
I've gotten a lot of people saying it looks like similar to the Falcons, but I'm like,
that's what it is.
From a distance, yeah, I can kind of see, but when you get closer, you're like, no, it looks.
Yeah. I said when you're watching on like a quad box in Red Zone, you're like, is that the Falcons game? Like, oh no, that's the Texans up there. Okay.
Oh, thank you, Brandon. Yeah, so this is what I was talking about earlier. Like 10 points from going 13-4. Like they lost a lot of one-score games, and that's why I made my prediction last year. And it wasn't based off homerism. It was just because looking at the numbers.
It's a homer with facts.
Right.
Yeah, that Tom Brady injury was life-changing, brother, man.
I remember watching it on TV, and it was like because I think it was I was at a friend's house, and they had satellites, and they were Patriots fans. Yeah. Patriots fans lived in Houston their whole life. I'm like, really?
I think that was like one of those first years of Red Zone. Like that was like one of the first times I checked out Red Zone, and you got to see everything, and it was like this just in, Tom Brady like limping off the field. It was like, oh shit. Especially as Colts fans, and we couldn't get past it's like when the Raptors finally got past LeBron. Like, man, like Tom Brady's not even there. We really got a chance. That's so cool.
Oh, different times back then, man.
Yeah, I know, man. Now it's Patrick. Now everybody's hoping Patrick Mahomes gets leukemia or something by week 17, so he can't play in the Super Bowl.
Like, take a few weeks off, man. Take care of the baby. We'll be a stay-at-home dad. All right, so let's talk predictions for week 1.
Man, predictions for week 1. I think Colts Texans is going to be one of the most interesting games to watch week 1. I think it's going to be a fast-paced game. I think week 1 there's going to be a lot of mistakes from all teams all over the NFL. I think, of course, the turnover battle is going to really decide who wins that game. But I really think, like I said, I think the Texans are going to jump out to an early lead, really stress Colts fans out. Probably like 21-7 at halftime. We keep you guys, 1-2 scores at the second half, and we make it a close game. But I think the Colts eventually end up losing, probably 28-34.
Okay, yeah, I think it's going to be a close game. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think it'll be fairly close because again, two divisional teams that play each other a lot. But I do think the Texans come out with a W. I think they just have too much firepower for the Colts to be able to stop them.
Exactly. That's I think the Colts are going to make a lot of mistakes early. You know what I'm saying? An Anthony Richardson interception, probably like one of those new kickoff fumble or something like that. I bet you that new kickoff is going to probably cause an issue in our game. But like I said, I think the Colts are going to go into halftime down big and really try to make up in halftime. But the firepower from Houston is going to be too much to overcome for us at the end of it. We end up losing. Like I said, I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, though. I think it's going to be one of the most interesting games that you're going to want to watch this week on this Sunday.
Yeah, I think it's going to be – I think the Texans probably – well, what I've been telling the guys is I think the game plan – well, I think the game plan should be is you want to air it out early on, put up a bunch of points, and then, run out the clock with Joe Mixon in the second half and just, wear the defense out because –
yeah.
Especially if Cam Akers is, he can stay healthy and be that running back too and just, keep pounding the rock. That should be the key to success for them against a lot of teams. Obviously, every week is different. You have to change it up, but I think that week 1 that should be the formula. Just
and see that like honestly, like that thought from the Texans fan is why I think the Colts are just a step behind going into week 1 against the Houston Texans. Because as Colts fans, we're hoping for I'm gonna be so excited to see that first Anthony Richardson touchdown. That first Anthony Richardson, we're hoping to get a complete drive early in the game. There's so many questions going on in the Indianapolis Colts offense specifically. And as Texans fan, like you said, you're hoping to go out there, air it out. We're just hoping to go out there, complete some passes. I want Anthony Richardson to not throw too many interceptions. I want him to have a good passer rating. You know what I'm saying? Like the Colts, I'm hoping for low mistakes. Texans fans are saying, let's get out, let's get up early, let's get up often. I'm saying, let's just play good football. You know what I'm saying? No interceptions. What the Colts are famous for as a Colts fan, what drives me absolutely bonkers on Sundays is the early 3-and-outs. Oh my God. The Indianapolis Colts will punt 7 times in the first quarter and a half of a football game. For some reason, we just love not playing football until halftime. And that's why I think we go down mad early in the game. I think the Texans come out, score a touchdown first drive of the game. And it puts the Colts in a position where we now have to put Anthony Richardson out there. We can't, run Jonathan Taylor most of the first drive. A 3-and-out in the first drive for the Colts is going to put us down 10-14-0. You know what I'm saying? We're going to go down 2 scores if we don't score on that first drive. And I think that's what's going to happen. because the Colts, we're just hoping to complete some drives, complete some passes, get Jonathan Taylor some first downs. You know what I'm saying? Maybe 20 carries. But like I think we just have to kind of put it all together still, which is why I think we're still a step behind from Houston.
All right, let me get this question real quick. So as 2 non-homers, you think Titans can beat Bears week 1? From what I've seen from Caleb Williams so far in preseason, he hasn't been super accurate, but he's made some highlight reel plays. But Titans, they haven't looked very good either in preseason. So I think it's gonna be a tie. They both
honestly, I'm gonna give you the most stereotypical answer, but it's the best answer. It's the any given Sunday approach, and week 1 is the best any given Sunday. I think obviously the Titans can beat the Bears. I think their chances are higher than the Vegas odds are right now. I can't remember what the odds are right now, but I think that the Bears are going to just I think this is going to be the first time for the Bears to really air it out. Caleb Williams has shown some really exciting flashes. We all saw what DJ Moore was capable of last year. Keenan Allen is in probably the best offense that he's been in his career, and finally getting a change from what the Chargers have been these last few years. I think the Bears really are going to put it all together and really just put it on the Titans. But I think the Titans are that's one of those games that you could be surprised because it's Caleb Williams' first game, and there's a lot of things going into it that you can build on SportsCenter on Sunday when the Titans eventually win 7-10, which is the only way the Titans win. They don't win in a shootout. The Titans win because the Bears are trash on week 1. That's the only way the Titans win. I guess that's the short way to answer that.
I think the only way the Titans win is if Caleb Williams goes out there and throws 3 pick sixes. But
the Bears have to shit the bed for the Titans to win, and it's going to be a 7-6 victory. Yeah.
Watch it be one of those 3-0 wins.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, that's the only way the Titans win is if you're like, wow, I'm surprised. I drafted Caleb Williams in fantasy, and I'm pissed. You know what I'm saying?
Bro, negative points? Come on,
yeah,
man.
Exactly.
All right, guys, we're going to go end the show. I want to give a big thank you to Dallas. This was last minute. I really appreciate you coming on, man.
Of course, man.
Always seeing that beautiful hair.
Of course, man. Yeah, like I said, I'm not going to be very available that first week of the season. I'm going out to Hawaii, but we're going to be hot and heavy going to the AFC South Battle podcast. I got the Huddle Chat Sports going on, a ton of fantasy football content coming out, so make sure you guys check it out over at the Huddle Chat.
Alrighty, guys, that'll be it for us for this week. We'll see you guys on Monday. Y'all enjoy y'all's weekends, and y'all stay safe.
Southwest A-League, Texas, throw down here and it's so infectious. We ride for the Houston Astros, Rockets, Dynamo, and them Texans. If you ain't never been down here, but rule number 1, you gon' respect us. Just fans in my speakers, new one drop, they bout to bless us. I might right through the SWAT, playing just fans right through your spot. Look, and I don't know what you thought, but right here, dog, we gon' rep the squad. Got HU, I might fit it, then on my jersey, you gon' know.